second by Councillor Rawson. Any discussion on any of those minutes at all? Councillor Nash.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the in the Canowindra one, it's got me instead of Councillor O'Ryan, just to change that to Councillor O'Ryan at Canowindra. Yeah, thank you.
In which meeting? Stray day? Stray day? Yep, okay. Done. Ordered. Anything further? Any discussion on the minutes? No? All right, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 7 is the 2026 Australian Women's Local Government Association New South Wales Annual Conference. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Nash, seconded by Councillor Pearson. All right. Does anybody wish to nominate for the conference? Councillor Nash.
I wonder whether Catherine would like to go as well. I don't know.
I think we could nominate her in her absence, and if there's some follow-up and confirmation of that later on, I think we could nominate her. So Councillor Nash and Councillor O'Ryan. Yeah. All right, everybody's happy with that? Councillor Rawson?
No.
No?
I was going to. I just asked Annie if she might have.
All right. We've got 2 nominations. Everybody's happy? I will put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 8 is the 2026 National General Assembly. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Poole, seconded by Councillor Rawson. I think the deadline is this Friday. Yeah. Anyway, look, I think all we do at this stage, if you like, is if somebody does come up with something, we just email it and share it and have a quick discussion and get it to the staff, and all the staff will be emailed in it as well, and try and put something together. If somebody comes up with something that they think is worthy. Everybody happy with that?
Through the Mayor, I was reading through it, and they want to have their seat at the table all the time instead of just once a year. That should be something that we should think about. You know, and also, you know, like the infrastructure, of course, of water and sewer. That's our main things, isn't it, at the moment? I don't know. But anyway, yeah, something like that.
Yep. All right, yeah, thank you. All right, well, at this stage I'll put that, and then when you can work on it during the week if needed, before Friday anyway. All right.
Can I just make a comment? If you look at the first one, financial sustainability, and I'm sure this will come up, and it'll be in relation to the, you know, the fact that financial assistance grants have been declining. If you actually look at the history of it, you go right back to 2013 when, not to take too much, but you had the Abbott-Costello government and Barnaby Joyce as the Deputy Prime Minister. Sorry?
It wasn't Costello. No.
No, oh, did I say Costello?
You said Abbott and Costello. I think they were comedians.
Abbott and Hockey, you know, not your average Joe. Abbott and Hockey, when Hockey was the treasurer, they froze the grants to councils. And that over the forward estimates at that time was estimated to be, and it proved true, to be a loss of $1 billion. But if you actually compound that to where we are in 2025, that's approaching $3 billion. So anything that comes up with relation to financial sustainability that really highlights that as an issue, I think we really should jump on and support wholeheartedly. I'd be surprised if it doesn't.
Yeah, look, it's Councillor Batten, it's something that's discussed all the time. there's no doubt in the world, and there will be a plethora of motions relating to that, and they're pushing really hard for the 1% to be reinstated to the 1% instead of 0.56 at the present moment, which would quite go a long way to solving a lot of the financial issues. But I can guarantee you it's all on the table all the time.
Being a regional council, I think one of the things, I don't know whether people read the land newspaper, but there was an article in a recent land newspaper, not the last one, I think one before, from Greg Whiteley, the president of the, your counterpart at the mayor of Warren. And Greg was raising the issue there of the impact on roads. So the fact that, and one of the things that he highlighted was that if they transferred roads to state roads or regional roads, that it didn't then negatively impact on the financial assistance grants. So I think that's an angle that we should be looking at to say, and educating people in regional areas that, hang on guys, you need to understand one of the reasons why roads are in decline and why there's so much pressure on our teams to maintain it is because of the way that money's been mishandled. There's not been a government since that's actually had the guts to reverse what Abbott and Hockey did at the time.
Actually, I don't disagree with your original summation of that government. It was a comedy act.
All right, thank you. I will put that. All those in favour? Against, carried. Thank you. Item 9 is a quarterly budget review. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Rawson, second by Councillor Poole. Any discussion on the QBR? Nope. All right, I will put it if everybody's happy. All those in favour? Aye. Against, that's carried. I'll set up the front there ready for all the questions. All right, item 10 is the Integrated Planning and Reporting Operational Plan Half-Yearly Report 25-26. Mover and a second, please. Councillor Jones is a mover, second by Councillor Pearson. Any questions in the IPNR? Or not necessarily questions, discussion. All happy? Righto, I will put that. All those in favour? Against, that's carried. Thank you, everybody. Item 11 is the half-yearly report of bond recovery plan. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Nash, second by Councillor Batten. Any discussion on that? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a question through you, please, in relation to the funding deed for the Eugowra Resilient Lands package. Just wondering where that's up to and how we're progressing.
Slowly.
Thank you.
Slowly.
Thanks for the question through you, Mr Mayor. Yes, that deed is progressing slowly with Department of Region and Economy. It's afoot, we believe, being ready for signing. So we've got a project control group established, which has members from the two government departments. We're still working, in spite of not having the deed, because we've signed a letter of acceptance, we can progress with the project to a point. And Russell and his team's been working well. We're in the process of doing our first subdivision of that land, which has been out on public display now for a while, and it should be back in. Russell, help me out with that date. When? Right, so closing this week. That enables the sale to go through, and we've got RA coming out tomorrow to have a look at the site and a few other things. So the project is progressing. We're hoping to open up some discussions with some people who are subject to the buyback scheme through the Resilient Housing Program. So it is progressing, Council, but yeah, the deed is taking a little bit of time to work through, but we're actively engaged with the department we're working on.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that? Councillor Wilson.
Oh, other than just to say, look, you know, again, congratulations for all the hard work that's been done on this report. It's good to see these reports go out to the community as well to really highlight the amount of work that has gone on since the floods and putting us back onto an even keel. It's really quite remarkable.
Well said. Anything else? No? All right, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 12 is media and social media protocols policies. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Weaver, seconded by Councillor Pearson. Any discussion on that at all? Councillor Batt.
Yeah, I have a question on that, Mr Mayor. Be interested to know the driver behind this. I mean, if you look at previously, situation where a person uses private social media, it was realistic that the expectation was that that was therefore private points of view or opinion. What this is now doing is actually asking us to tighten that up. And I'm interested in what's the driver. I mean, obviously councillors, we accept their responsibility in the first instance. We are a councillor, and anything we say can be deemed to be inappropriately quite often as council policy, right? When it's in fact not. But what this is asking us to do is actually go a step further, and the risk here is it actually is a threat to freedom of speech. I'm just interested in what the driver is behind it becoming much tighter.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I believe the driver, if you like, is the social media juggernaut and how it is now utilised almost as an accepted tool of local government, councillors, political. I think the minister, I don't want to misquote, but I think he's quite adamant that council is politics as well, and that people have a right to express themselves outside the chamber, and at times that may be not totally in line with the council policy, and they should be able to express themselves. I think that to use the basic analogy, it's what hat the person has on. So it's to clearly delineate if you're speaking as a councillor, an opinion as a councillor, it needs to be clear. And if you are trying to speak as a private citizen about other matters on Facebook, it should be clear which hat you've got on when you're doing that. So this policy requires you to declare when you're putting out your view on a social media platform that you are a councillor, and are expressing that as a councillor about council matters, etc. But private, also you may have a profile as a private citizen that goes into other matters that has nothing to do with providing, again, that you don't breach, I suppose, the reputational risk of council, but it's not about council matters. You could have an opinion about a sporting team or something that's, you know, that you're expressing a view as Peter Batten, whereas so it's to clearly delineate which hat you're wearing when you are active on social media, and therefore it doesn't stop you from expressing a view, but it just means that it's clear that it's in the council realm rather than the personal realm. That's my understanding of it.
I would have thought that would have been the situation if a councillor wants to express a point of view as a councillor, then you do it off your council email, because it actually says Peter Batten, councillor. Whereas if I wanted to express a view as Peter Batten, private citizen, I would use Peter Batten social media.
Yeah, well, that's you've actually got to the nub of the point, is that in the modern world, in the current world, not saying you're not modern or current council by any means, but the people don't use emails, they are using Facebook, and they feel they need an ability to do so as that councillor with that signature block, if you like. It might be a known notation that this is a councillor on Facebook, Twitter, whatever they're called, X and all those things. And so you are, that exact analogy is they're in the social media world and they've got that signature block on like they do with their email, but equally like you've got an email that you may choose to use that's not the council one to do your farming business, etc. That's the other identity you may have in a social media. And we wrap this policy around the council, because I think the problem was there was a blanket application of the person in the social media sphere being threaded for both hats, and this is to show which hat you're wearing when you're in that sphere, not unlike email. So it is a good analogy. Does that make
It's
sense?
through the mayor. I get it that if say someone is on there on Facebook ranting about a road or whatever, and we go on there and comment, we've got to say that that's our view, and not that of the council. Is that right? Or can we say anything or not?
Well, you would not be breaching the policy if you got on there as a councillor and said, it, Marlene Nash, as a councillor, did you know that the road situation was this? That's what this enables, but it's, I suppose, it's difficult, and we just caution council, that's a dangerous space to get into, but I think you'll find outside this council, there's plenty of councillors engaged very vibrantly in the public debate online as councillors about such questions. So that's what this policy does enable. It's also up to the councillor to know that they're in that area, which is a little bit of Wild West at times, and sometimes more advisable not to. But that's the point. You have a freedom of speech. You are elected officials. You can engage in social media, but there are swings and roundabouts with that. So it doesn't preclude you from doing it, but it's still got to, I suppose, it's what you say about either an individual or an issue. You've still got to be within the bounds of the code of conduct and not bringing council into disrepute, etc. So if you got into a vibrant to and fro argument and I'm not saying, but if a councillor started using offensive language or those sorts of things, then it comes in under code of conduct. So it's a tricky space. This is to contemporise us with where the rest of the industry is at, but it's up to council laws whether they want to continue going along the email track if they choose to, but it does enable councillors also to be in line with other elected officials around the state.
Yes, very careful, I think. Very careful with this one.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, I think just common sense, like we all use common sense when we're doing all these sort of things, I guess. It should still, whatever the policy, however it's worded, it should still be able to speak on any issue, provided we say this is our opinion. Say, for example, a journalist comes and speaks to us about an upcoming item in the business papers, we should still be able to, even before the meeting, say this is my opinion on that particular item, and so we'll abide by what the decision of council when it happens. But we should still be given the opportunity and the ability to speak openly about our views, which can change, of course. You know, they might change in the meeting, which has happened a number of times. So I think, yeah, common sense more than anything. Social media, as I agree, is a whole different ballgame, because the moment you do and say something in social media, it just gets spreads, gets shared and gets, oh, this is what this guy says about this, or, and you got to be incredibly careful about what you say.
Just through you, Mr. Mayor, I just would encourage, though, as the policy recommends, is that if you are approached for an interview, at least we get notified about the issue, because we may have issues, context that councillor may not be aware of that has given rise to that report of prompting, etc. So to go into a conversation informed is much better than not understanding. So we would just, as we'd encourage the media to come to us too, if they've got an issue with council, to get the view of the organisation about the issue, get a balanced view. That's what we'd be asking for.
All right. I will now put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 13 is the funding request, Orange City Council Sustainable Collection Program 26 to 28. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Pearson, second by Councillor Jones. Any discussion? Councillor Jones.
Just a quick question, Mr. Mayor, sorry. By not committing the additional $10,000 in funding that we've been approached to, what are we still eligible to receive and what will we not receive as a part of that? Are there extra benefits and have they been outlined to us? Thank you.
We are getting microphone for that, Tony.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So thank you for the question. So I suppose looking at the perspective of this request, I made contact with the museum manager just to get a bit of a better understanding around what actually was covered and what isn't. So there was an attachment to the report that outlines the items that they were prepared to continue with doing. Having a conversation with her, I suppose it was identified that some of the support that would not be provided, the remainder will still be available even if council don't support the funding, is one-to-one support around visiting museums and assisting with documentation and cataloguing, that type of thing. So they'd still provide workshops, they're still available for phone consults, and there's other things that are listed in there that council museums in our LGA can still access.
Through the Mayor, sorry, Jamie, we finished?
Right, sorry, just a supplementary question, Mr. Mayor, in terms of provided in the past. Have we ever received reports around the number of hours, etc. we have received, just so we can quantify as to which way our decision should go today, please?
New to this process, through you, Mr. Mayor. So my understanding is no, there was no formal KPI or quantified report that was provided back to council after the funding had been provided around actual activities that have taken place.
Through the Mayor, I've only got one question. I'm just wondering why have you said not to support it? Because it seems to me that if it helps the museums and the Age of Fishes is in that, why it's not a big amount of money. We're just wondering about that.
Yep, sure. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yep.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I suppose I should answer that because I'm probably the factor is, well, I guess we're preparing for this year's budget and as you know, we are facing financial headwinds. So I did challenge our staff to look for savings in all areas. So when this request came in, obviously it was an area that we hadn't, it was an area that we believed was an area we would save money by not contributing. However, it is a matter for council, but that's the lens through we have to start looking at a few things. It is only a small amount of money, but it is money that we weren't spending before, and now it's additional. So it's $10,000 that has to come from somewhere that wasn't there before. That's the way we approached it. But it's a matter for council. If they feel that it's better to go in with the other two councils and have this service, that's certainly a matter for you, and we can obviously have an amendment, and that's the way we can go. But that it wasn't a unilateral decision by council staff. It was actually a broader brush stroke of myself working with the CFO and the executive saying we need to look at savings across all our items, and there'll be more information about that as we lead into the budget preparations.
Get you in a sec. I'll just comment on one thing. I'll ask a question really. Stace, the one-on-one support that this additional money is paying for, could the museums still apply for that support and would it be supplied at a cost, do you think? Or, and then secondly, if there is a cost, well, they could come back to council for support to offset that cost?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I think that could possibly be an option. It wasn't a conversation that I'd had with the museum manager, but I think they're open to looking at options or opportunities where some funding might be available, and that could be through the local communities and the progress associations as a possibility, if that were the case. Just as a note, so with the flooding, this program provided a lot of support to UGARA, particularly around the museum and assisting with washing items and cataloguing. At that point in time, they weren't funded to do that from Cabonne, but that work still took place. So I think if there was disaster, I'm sure that, in the conversation I had with the museum manager is that they would be willing and prepared to support communities. Hopefully that won't ever happen again.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, through you, Mr Mayor, could I ask, if we've already been receiving all this service effectively for free, what is the extra 10,000 you're going to provide? What's it?
So the extra money that, through you, Mr Mayor, the extra money that they were seeking, it's just to support the program overall, I think, strategically from councils, for their bottom line, so that they can continue to do what they need to do in a more efficient way, was my understanding. So the only thing that we don't get is that one-to-one support where they would go out and visit a museum and assist them with their documentation and cataloguing.
Sorry,
Can I
supplementary.
ask that question? If it's only the one-on-one support, if they do need it, they could apply for funding for it.
Mr Mayor, could I move that we move into committee of the whole, please?
Procedurally, there being a motion, request to put it in committee whole. Can I have a seconder on that too, please? Councillor Nash, thank you. All those in favour? Against, that's carried. Yeah, continue. Councillor
Mr
Wilson.
Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It seems, can I make a comment rather than a question this time? This seems like a very, very small amount of money, and perhaps even a symbolic gesture more than anything else to indicate our willingness to support the museums in our shire. We have been receiving essentially a freebie for quite a long time, and perhaps it is time for us to, just to chip in even a symbolic amount in this case. I would consider museums anywhere to be a significant component of the cultural landscape of a region, of a location, and that every time I go travelling anywhere, and I might stay in a location, I'd very often go and seek out the museum to learn about that location and learn about the history of that location. They're a fundamental component of our cultural landscape, and I'm happy to pay $10,000 a year. And in fact, I'm not really quite sure why we're asking the question right now. It really should be something for us to consider when we develop the budget for next year and the year after. I guess you're going through that process now, and this could give an indication of our views one way or the other about whether or not you need to determine whether or not you need to put a little bit of money aside for that. But I think this is small amount of money to help support our museums. I'm very happy to do it.
Councillor Batten first, then you, Councillor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I actually want to speak in favour of the motion. A couple of reasons. One, the General Manager highlighted one of the drivers for this is that we've asked the staff to go through our finances with a fine-tooth comb to set us up in the future for potential special rate variation. So they've come up with an initiative. The second thing I would say is some of these museums, like Yeovil for example, is an S355 committee of council. So they have alternate ways of actually seeking that money to do certain things. Like Deputy Mayor Jones said, I'm not sure that we've actually seen, the good return on investment in that one-to-one relationship. I haven't heard anything to say that they're actually getting good service from that. So I think we probably should have a look at it. So I'm actually encouraging the fellow councillors to vote in favour of this in support of what the staff have done.
Thank you. Councillor Weaver.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I tend to agree with Councillor Batten, but also our museums, be them historical or the Age of Fishes or whatever, they also add to the Orange area. It's a two-way street. We contribute to them as they contribute to us, but a lot of people visit us and go on to Orange or vice versa. But, we all interact together. And, I just don't think, we get good service now, If we're missing that one component of a one-on-one situation, well, $10,000 a year, if we can find it in the budget, isn't a great problem, I don't think. Whether we can find it or not, that's up to council, but I get a little bit annoyed when bigger areas, like bigger museums, start lording over that, you know, that they're sort of the hierarchy of museums across the Shire. Our museums work really hard, all our volunteers work really hard, and they don't get much thanks for it, but they're very emotive of what they do and how they do it. And yeah, I don't know. I just get a bit parochial, I guess, in saying, you know, the big boys play the game, but it's the little ones that help make it work too. So whichever way it goes, it doesn't really upset me one way or the other, but I just think $10,000, that's not a big ask.
Councillor Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm actually going to support Council's recommendation. I think as we get into the nuts and bolts of it all, every dollar counts, let alone every $10,000 to keep in our kitty. I don't think there's enough documentation and history in this recommendation to show us the benefit. I don't like the split that Orange City Council secured a grant for $25,000, but Blaney and Cabon can put $10,000 in each of your own kitty. And I'm still cautious of the bigger councils taking charge of that fund and what we get out of it.
Through the chair. Well, I see it differently. I just see that a collaboration between Orange, Blaney and Cabon is always a good thing. And I don't know, they collect and document and digitalisation and all this. I mean, it seems to me that for $10,000 it'd be probably money well spent, but, you know, it's up to the council to decide.
Any further discussion? Councillor Rawson.
Just to correct something of Councillor Paul, yes, Orange City Council secured the $25,000, but in the letter it says that they've also chipped in on top of that as well. So it indicates that they're asking us to chip in a similar amount of money, that's all. So that's just to correct that. Look, I'm involved in a lot of historical organisations where the biggest issue has been curatorial support and also support for digitisation of documentation. And the letter that came with this does indicate that there's a significant backlog of the material, documents and so on, which need to be digitised. For example, putting documents that you've got onto Trove, which can then be utilised by the local museums digitally. There's a huge backlog across all museums of that sort of support. And it's not necessarily something that each individual museum has the technical skills to be able to do on their own and then to go and ask for grant money and so on their own. They do get support from larger museums who do this sort of thing all the time, and this is the sort of area where I think this sort of program is probably going to be of greatest benefit. So, I mean, that's why I consider there's a value to this beyond just, you know, the collaboration issue. Yeah. So I don't support the recommendation. I would be voting against it. I would ask us to consider funding this.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Right, I'm reading the room here. We've got a split. There's a divide. Now, to progress this any further, I need somebody to move an amendment.
I'm happy to move an amendment.
What's your amendment?
that we've still got some time to consider whether or not we fund this or not for the next financial year's budget. Is that correct? There is a little bit of time available?
Well, essentially, through you, Mr. Mayor, that this is the process for we're using this process to determine whether we put it in the budget or not, because
okay.
so because it's an unusual one as far as it was funded a long time ago. We didn't put it just as a line item which could not get noticed, let's say, in the budget perhaps. So to indicate whether this goes into the budget or not, that's what this resolution would in fact trigger.
Okay, thanks. Well, in which case, I would recommend that we do support, and so we'd have to change one. We do support the request for those 2 financial years, but the second one would have to change completely, have to go. And I would ask then for the second part would be for there to be an annual reporting of the benefit of that money back to Cabonne Shire. In other words, what is the engagement, what has been the interaction between this body and museums within the Cabonne Shire?
All right, so the council does support the funding request, and then your item 2 is that it's reported back to council as to the benefits of the program.
On an annual basis, there should be a report back to council on how that program supports museums in Cabonne Shire, or suitable wording. So number 2, is going to have to go.
Yep.
And have to be an alternative to that.
Reports back annually.
I think so, yeah. We're giving them money annually, so why not? Yep.
I'll second that.
All right, seconded by Councillor Nash. Now, I guess we could shortcut this and say we've heard from the mover on why you have moved the amendment, unless you want to repeat that, what you just said. No, not. You want to speak to your amendment? I know you've already spoken 2 or 3 times to it. You want to repeat that? Right? Right. Right. Now, does anybody wish to speak against it? I know Councillor Batten has spoke in support of the original.
Which
motion.
means that I would be expected to speak against the
Correct.
amendment.
Correct.
I do want to speak against it. As I said earlier, we asked our staff to come up with methods to save money and position us for the future. This does exactly that. If you look at what's actually happened in terms of this work, it's been going, as it says in the report, 17 years. Digitisation does not take 17 years. You shouldn't be putting money back into it year after year after year to achieve that. If you have the right resources and you put the effort in, and you would expect if this council's been supporting this sort of initiative for 17 years with 15 grand up to what they're asking for now, that work would be done. I just for the life of me cannot see why we would continue to put money year after year to achieve the same thing that has a start and an end date. And the other thing in this report is ageism. It says it's at risk of actually not happening because the volunteers age. If you have a look at our museums, some of the most efficient people who actually work in those museums are the old people in the community. If you go and have a look at Molong, what's happened here at Molong, a lot of the stuff, the initiatives that happened in the last 12 to 18 months has been the work of very skillful, very capable older members of the community. So I'm against this amendment and I'm actually definitely in favour of the original motion.
Another speaker for Councillor Nash.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
through the Mayor, I think I've already said what I think. I think that any help that we can get to show the kids of the future what's been around, and I think it's just really, really interesting. Museums are interesting, and anything that we can do to keep our own museums going, yeah, great.
Speaker against was Councillor Poole, as per his previous conversation. Is that it?
As per previous conversation, but again, most of our museums are 355 committees that can seek funding that we've already allocated in the budget through progress associations, etc.
Any further discussion? One lie right of reply. Yep.
Okay, I do. Thanks. My right to reply. In reply to Councillor Batten, I don't think it's an ageist issue here. And of course, a lot of our museums are run by people who are in their 70s, 80s, or even 90s, and they do a fantastic job. Good friends of mine as well who do a fantastic job. But the reality is they can't do that forever, and I don't think it's being ageist what was being presented. This is just supporting those people. And yes, there might be some which have 355 committees can get grants, but as I said to you before, they often need support from outside of their organisation, that from usually a much larger permanent museum funded by with permanent staff, curatorial experience, and with support from some of the big Sydney museums, for example. They get that support. And that's well beyond often the technical expertise of an individual museum, and I think this sort of fund is designed to help to provide that. So that's why I put up the amendment.
All right. There's no further discussion. I will put the amendment. Otherwise clear, I'm putting the amendment. So all those in favour of the amendment? Those against? Well, the amendment's been defeated, so now we go back to the original motion, which I'll now put that. All those in favour? Against? 2, so it's defeated. So that's motion is carried. Very good discussion. All right. Item 14 is the event sponsorship program. Could I have a mover and a second, please? Moved by Councillor Pearson, second by Councillor Poole. Any discussion on this events sponsorship program? No. I will put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Probably need to move out of committee of the whole as well, so kind of a mover and a second on that. Moved by Councillor Jones, second by Councillor Batten. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you. Item 15 is the confirmation of the Roads Advisory Committee meeting minutes. Mover and a second of Councillor Rawson. Thank you. Councillor Jones, seconded. Any discussion on the minutes at all? No? All right, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 16 is demolition of the Rotary Park toilet block. Mover and a second. Moved by Councillor Jones, second by Councillor Batten. Any discussion on that at all?
I think it was me. Look, only just a little question, which I think is sort of answered in the report anyway, but just the nearest. I mean, I'm going to vote for it. I agree. We should remove that one, but I was just wondering where the next nearest best available toilet block is there. Just Bank Street?
Bank Street.
Just the one in Bank Street? And
We've got 100 rec.
Oh, down at the rec. Yeah. Okay. And is that signposted up there, the toilet block at the Rotary Park? Is that?
No.
It's not even signposted. So.
It's not more.
Sorry?
The signage actually at the moment that's there is actually one of our digital removable signs, which actually advises that the toilets are closed and that there are good quality ones actually at the rec ground.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether or not people regularly use those toilets, and because it's just next to the highway, it's sort of a stop there. But I think the issue really is we can't really replace them there. Is that right? Because it's a bit too close to the creek. Is that the issue? Yeah.
While Mandy's making away there, look, once upon a time the highway used to go past it before they realigned the road, and they were probably used a lot more, in my own opinion. I think they were used a bit more then, but now since the highway really bypasses them, they would be used less, for sure.
Sorry, through you, Mr Mayor, yes, they are quite well utilised, those toilets, but they are in bad shape, as I said in the report. But the ones down at the Dr Ross Memorial Oval are just as accessible. So they're in much better condition.
Councillor Jones.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I just want to speak to support the motion, not a question, but to support the motion, and note that the Rotary Club supports the demolition of these facilities. As the report has clearly outlined, they've been impacted by floods. There are environmental concerns with the septic being so close to the creek. They're subject to vandalism in the location they're at and other unsavoury behaviour. If we were to refurbish them, it would cost approximately, and I'd say it's a pretty conservative view, of $150,000. In our time on council, council has renovated the Bank Street toilets or refurbished the Bank Street toilets, and we've worked with MAG or partnered with MAG to provide upgrades to the bathrooms at Dr Ross Memorial Oval. The other thing that I believe supports the demolition of these toilets is the fact that it allows us to reduce staff resources in terms of allowing our town presentation crews, instead of cleaning 3 sets of toilets all within a very short space of each other, it allows them to either spend more time on the 2 toilets that would remain, or on other town maintenance and presentation works. So the only other thing I'd like to say is that obviously the facilities, as our leader has said, at the rec are very accessible in terms of caravans and larger vehicles, and our Bank Street toilets bring people into our main street to support our local businesses. So whereas if you're pulling up at those ones out the road, you're less likely to then pull up in our main street. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion? All right, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against, carried. Thank you, everybody. Item 17 is questions for next meeting. Mover and the seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Pearson, seconded by Councillor Nash. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for next meeting? Councillor Rawson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Well, it relates to our previous discussion about museums. It got me thinking about what is it that we do, how do we support our museums in the Shire? And I was just wondering if we could get a report back from staff about the current situation with regard to museums, about what in kind, presumably there's a lot of in kind. So for example, we would probably have a lot of museums that are on property owned by council or maintained by council, and there might be a 355 committee that's involved as well, and there may be other sort of ways in which council supports our museums. It would be good if we can just get a report back on what the reality is, so that we can, support them better in the future.
Thank you. Acknowledged.
Through you, Mr Mayor, and it's probably a question directed to you more than anything. I noted that the Minister has initiated a review of joint organisations of councils, and no doubt the Central West Joint Organisation of Councils will be putting in a report or a submission to that, which I think closes in the next couple of weeks, and it may all be before our next, I think it closes before our next meeting. It'd be great to actually have a report on the position from Central West JO about what the position of the JO is. Because I note that in his review, he says that he's been contacted by council who say that it's not working effectively for them, and maybe there's some other model or models that may well work. So I think we need to be careful that we've got one that works and has worked well, and we need to be, I think, supporting our JO to actually put that position.
Yeah, look, it's on the board papers for Thursday, and it's in the noting papers too. there'll be a bit of discussion on that on Thursday, and the report that's going to go up to the board is quite a good one, where it details the fact that we are a good working group and don't break or don't upset something that is working. And it's true, it doesn't work in other areas, but we've worked with it. It's taken a considerable amount of time from the changing from a ROC to a JO to the model and how we work, but it is successful. You've seen some of the figures, and the returns on investment are quite incredible. And so that is the question that's being put back. I would suggest that, and there's a full analysis of the costings between a JO and a ROC model. And one of the biggest issues is the staffing, because we're actually now employing somewhere around 9 or 10 staff, some full-time, some part-time in the JO, and the wage bill is close to over $1 million, I think, and there's a threshold there or something. Don't quote me on that, where you get into trouble by being a ROC when you've got that big a pay threshold. So there's benefits to staying in a JO anyway. So yeah, but certainly know more about the detail of a report that's been sent back after Thursday.
Are we intending to write to the Minister in response to this? Is that the... I mean, I think we should. I'm in support of our JO, which is a very effective organisation.
Yeah, so I think we will write back after there's a resolution at the JO about what we should believe is our direction, which I'm sure is going to be the JO, but I can't speak for the board. But yeah, so we'll come back to council and we can detail a submission based on that as well. I would think that how you would see it.
Just got to check the time, Mr. Mayor, but it's in the noting that we're waiting in that, awaiting that, let me get that report up.
Feedback by the 31st of March.
Yeah. Out of the March.
Yeah, after me. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have time for it to go to the March meeting as a draft to be supported, to a recommendation for the submission to go to the Minister with regards to the JO, which will be in line with, well, it's up to the council, but it will be reflecting what happens on Thursday in our report to council, which will come at that March meeting.
So are they happy with that, Councillor Batten? Yeah.
Well, absolutely, Mr. Mayor, and I apologise for, you know, like, unlike Raylene Ball in the 400 metres, where she got disqualified for jumping the gun. I know that is item 1.
That's all right. We've dealt with it now. Anything, other questions for next meeting? All right, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against, that's carried. Item 8 is business paper items for noting. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Rawson, second by Councillor Pearson. Anybody have anything there for noting at all?
Just I can call item 3, the Australian Day wrap-up, Mr. Mayor, if you wouldn't mind.
Item 3. Does anybody else have anything they wish to call? All right, if not, all over to you, Councillor Batten. Item 3 is Australia Day 26 wrap-up.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to reiterate what Councillor Weaver had said in the you know, in the mayoral minute, and congratulate the staff on the organisation of this year. And I want to single out Nikki Sinclair. I mean, Nikki is a person of incredible patience, I would suggest, because of a number of these people in here that were meant to be nominated or followed up by me. And she was a little bit like a dog with a bone, actually kept on to me to make sure that I got them in. And it was minutes to midnight when the last one came, I admit, so Nikki, thank you. But in comment about them though, I mean, the program itself and the quality of people we had nominated this year, I think that was reflected in how the particular ones, the particular events went. If you look at, I mean, I attended 3, Cumnock, Molong and the Oval. I've got to say that I was incredibly impressed with the organisation of all 3. The quality of nominees was just right up there. And if you look at, for example, at Molong, we had the sports person of the year for Cabon. People like myself had no idea that there was a person there that represented Australia in triathlon. A young person now at University of Newcastle doing sports science. Not only that, takes the initiative on herself to actually go to a disadvantaged community outside of Australia to teach women to swim. I mean, that's the quality in Cabon, the people that we actually have at our fingertips. If I look at and signal out a couple of the speakers, Cumnock, where Ben Watts, who we had last year as our environmental champion, Ben spoke at Cumnock, and again, his ability just stood out. He was able to tailor the presentation to the community he was speaking to. Bill Dodds, who, as you know, he actually is the president of the group that's actually been able to improve the sustainability of the shop in Cumnock. He spoke at Molong, and out of that, Phil's actually stimulated some thinking about how the community may well be able to retrieve the RSL club here in Molong. So I just say we've got some incredible people that live in Cabon. So when we're looking at people to actually be guest speakers, and I think that's one of the things we should encourage every community to think about, is having a guest speaker drawn from our community of Cabon to speak. I mean, you look at our young citizen of the year, the youth ambassador. I mean, I've heard nothing but positive reports about Nick and his capabilities. So congratulations to the staff who organised it, and I'd say that, and from my experience, that's probably the best one that I've been to this year.
Thank you, Councillor Batten, and very well said. And we started with it, and now we've mentioned it again. Did a great job, and especially the official party keeping us moving. I tell you what, you don't want to cross them or be late. Keep it stuck right in here. No, they do a great job. Councillor Webb.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to acknowledge to Taylor Corey what a delightful person she is, and how well she spoke, and also Nicholas Gibson. My goodness, what a terrific young man he is, and you know their approach to it and their friendliness and everything that it builds for the day, along with our staff that were thrown in the deep end a bit at Canowindra, but you know, they were good. Nick's really good at cutting up cake. But yeah, I mean, it was a happy day, and I think that's really important for Australia Day, to be a happy day. It's our national day, and everybody appreciated everything that everyone did. So I think it was great. Thank you.
All right. Councillor Rawson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, look, I'll just also concur with the other councillors about the day. Mullion Creek in particular was spectacularly well attended. It was, I thought there was about 100 people there, but in fact someone counted about 150, which was pretty amazing turnout. It was good because it was early in the morning. It was an 8 o'clock start, and before the day got really, really hot. But it brought so many people out. The barbecue that which was built with money from Cabon, from the council, we supported the building of the barbecue. It was well used on the day, and with facilities like that in central locations in each of our villages, people will come. You build it, they will come, and that was a perfect example of an event where people came in their droves and had a great time. It was a very good very, very good event. We had a speaker there, Ted Lewis, a local artist, excellent artist, who set up his art inside the hall so people could wander in and have a look at. He wasn't selling his art; he was just showcasing what he's done over the years, over many years, and particularly focused on the art that he had done, the paintings that he'd done of Mullion Creek and the area around Mullion Creek. So paintings of the hall, you know, as it used to be, that sort of thing. So it was actually a really, really good day.
Thank you. Anything else? Oh, Councillor Pearson.
Well, I would like to echo Councillor Batten, Councillor Lawson and Councillor Weaver in congratulating the staff in the efforts they put into organising these events, and I would also like to congratulate the recipients of awards and congratulate the speakers.
Thank you.
Mr Mayor, I did forget somebody. I thank you for the time and effort you put in year after year after year, and I know it's been cut back by one visitor this year to towns, but the amount of effort that you put into making people feel comfortable, making them feel happy and relaxed, you add a fair bit to our celebrations, and I thank you for that.
Thank you, Jen. Don't do anything more than all of you do, I don't think, but thank you very much for your comments. Anything further? All right, I will put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 9 is matters of urgency. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Pearson moves. Councillor Nash is the seconder. Does anybody have anything of an urgent nature? Nothing. I will put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 20 is the committee of the whole section of the meeting. I know we have nothing, but I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Jones, second by Councillor Pearson. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Our additional supplementary item is item 21, which is the Merrill Minute. Request for support for a community fundraiser. I will move that. I think the short report is self-explanatory. A small donation to a very worthwhile cause. Everybody's got a copy of that report in front of them. Any discussion on that at all? All right. Right, I will put that. All those in favour? Yes, that's carried. Thank you, everybody, for that. All right, we'll now move into our confidential closed section of the meeting.